So it's been a long 3 weeks. Remember, this phase, this chapter of America, this birth pang, started just a few weeks ago when we had a debate and the president froze on stage. He couldn't remember where he really was at any given time. He wasn't making sense. He had no word retrieval. It was a frightening moment for many Americans, not because, oh my gosh, he's going to lose to Donald Trump, but because that guy is the guy who's running the country right now. That's not an easy job. And we have enemies breathing down our neck, and they are looking at us and licking their chops. Because of the policies of this president, we, for the first time since I was a kid, we are actually talking about the use of nuclear weapons. That's insane. So when that shock hit us, and we were like, this is the guy running the country, what was happening? And the shock of, we've been lied to by everyone. They've told us he was fine, sharper than ever. He's the sharpest tack in the drawer. And we realized he's not in control. Who is? What did this mean? Why didn't anybody say anything? Why hasn't the cabinet invoked the 25th Amendment? And all of that leads us to, who can we trust? Who's actually been running the country? Why hasn't anyone said anything? And if you do say something, how come you were labeled a conspiracy theorist? Remember, if you said 4 weeks ago that he was incompetent and unable to continue as president of the United States, you were a conspiracy theorist. A year ago, when Democrats were saying he can't run for another term, we want somebody else, the Democratic Party squashed those people. Wouldn't let you have a primary because he's our guy. So that's what began 4 weeks ago. And then, what was it, a week and a half after that, we have this moment with President Trump in Pennsylvania.
Really see something that said, take a look at what happened.
So we don't know who's in charge. And then a week later, the guy running against him is gunned down on live television. And we don't know really what happened. In fact, we still don't know what happened because the head of the security of the Secret Service, we all figured out and found out, was hired by the First Lady, not the president. The First Lady was the one who pushed for her DEI hire at the Secret Service, and she was protecting PepsiCo. And now the most important leaders of the world. And so we went, okay, well, there's another shock, but let's hear her out. And she testifies, and she says this.
Was this a colossal failure?
It was a failure.
Yes or no? Was it a colossal failure is the question. Yes or no?
I have admitted this is a terrible...
This is a yes or no series of questions. Was this a colossal failure? Yes or no?
Yes.
Have you provided a list to the Oversight Committee? Yes or no?
I will have to get back to you on that.
That is a no. Have you provided all audio and video recordings in your possession to this committee, as we asked on July 15th? Yes or no?
I would have to get back to you.
That is a no. You're full of today. You're just being completely dishonest.
So now you're reeling. This is all in a 3-week period. Now you're reeling from that. Wait a minute. Was this a setup? What are they covering up? If they're not covering something up, why wouldn't they just be honest and open and transparent? Why wouldn't they feel like most Americans? And then you realize, well, maybe they do feel like many Americans. Those that we saw on social media right after the assassination attempt that were screaming like they were crazy people, you missed. How did you miss? And a little bit of the American soul just kind of vaporizes and disappears. You're like, what is this? So after that happens, just a few days later, the president is being pressured to resign, and we'll let it be his decision. Well, I've already made my decision. God will have to remove me himself. Saturday, he's saying the same thing. Then suddenly, Sunday morning, I believe he was given a choice. A coup happened, and our president resigned. Now, I think he should have resigned, not just from the candidacy, but from the presidency of the United States. Another shock to you. Wait a minute. He's not okay to run a campaign, but he's okay to run the country? What? And then his replacement is announced. Here's Chuck Schumer. Listen to this.
So now that the process is played out, from the grassroots bottom up, we are here today to throw our support behind Vice President Kamala Harris. I'm clapping. You don't have to.
Okay, good. Thank you. As the process played out, from the grassroots up, no grassroots movement was going for Kamala Harris. None. Nobody at the bottom voted for her. She was in the primary. She had, let me count all of the delegates that she won. Zero. She was rejected by the voters, and then she was strangely just picked as, oh, she's the one we want. And the party elites picked her. And then they had a coup and picked her again. And are trying to convince you that that was a grassroots effort? What is happening? Well, the same thing. They've just changed faces. The same kind of cover-up, the same exact kind of garbage that you got from the press before is happening again. Who's Kamala Harris? Well, we know she's fine, and she's got a spotless record, right? We know she's fine, just like they knew Joe Biden was absolutely fine. And you're a conspiracy theorist if you say anything differently. Well, now we watched it with our own eyes, and media has confirmed it for the last 3.5 years that she was in charge as the border czar. We have the videotape of all of them saying it. But no. Now we have to change our history. We have to change our news. Here's the media. Cut 31, please.
Quote unquote border czar. Vice President Harris was not a border czar.
Meantime, Vice President and border czar Kamala Harris facing some backlash.
What he said about Harris and immigration was not true. She was never appointed border czar.
And this will be her first visit to the U.S.-Mexico border region since she was appointed as the border czar by President Biden.
People are going to have to counter the misinformation. You already hear folks talking about the border czar. She wasn't the border czar.
President Biden tapped Kamala Harris, Vice President Kamala Harris, to be the border czar.
Now, she wasn't the border czar. That's what Republicans labeled her.
They were very critical of Kamala Harris, especially in her role as border czar.
Now what she's up against is folks lying about her border record, calling her a border czar.
Kamala Harris, who was appointed as the border czar.
The Biden team didn't declare her the border czar. They wanted her to work on kind of the root causes of immigration.
There has been so much criticism against Kamala Harris. You know, she was the border czar.
Calling her sort of the border czar, which wasn't necessarily the case.
So the border, if they weren't planning to address it in a major way, do not make her your border czar. She met with some of the Northern Triangle countries, but nothing has effectively changed.
Nothing's changed for them. Your whole world has changed. Our country has changed. Our country is in dire trouble. There is a clear and present danger off our shores. It's called China, North Korea. It's called Hamas. It's called Iran, Russia. Do you think they're playing this little game of border czar? He's fine. You're a conspiracy theorist. They know, just like you know. And you are looking at this going, this is madness. But that's not all that's happened. I just want you to recognize why you might be on edge, why you might be so tired right now. A lot has happened. Your country that you love, assuming that you do love it, your country has taken a beating over the last just 3 weeks. Presidential debate. Let me just remind you of that moment again.
Continue to move until we get the total ban on the total initiative relative to what we're going to do with more border patrol and more asylum officers.
President Trump?
I really don't know what he said at the end of that sentence. I don't think he knows what he said either. Look, we had the safest border in the history of our country.
Stop it. Here is the amazing thing. That was a body blow to many Americans. I knew what this state was of our president. You can see it. But for half the country, it had been denied. And we were called liars and conspiracy theorists. I didn't celebrate when I saw that. I was terrified when I saw that. So yesterday, the president resigns, cut 8, from the race. Cut 8.
In the honor of my life to serve as your president. But in the defense of democracy, which is at stake, I think is more important than any title. I draw strength and I find joy in working for the American people. But this sacred task of perfecting our union is not about me. It's about you, your families, your futures. It's about we, the people. We can never forget that. And I never have.
Another body blow last night. Well, I'm not going to get into it. If you don't understand what I meant by a body blow of just that portion of the speech, I don't think you understand. But he's talking about our republic is at stake. And while he's speaking, just a block and a half from the Capitol building, at the Union train station, they're taking down the flags and burning them in the streets. Here's what happened with the Palestinians in Washington, D.C. yesterday, cut 4. They are painting our statues. Hamas is coming, and they are taking down our flags. This is a federal property. They're taking down the flags and they're burning them. Imagine on January 6th if they would have done that. If they would have spray painted on the wall, the right is coming. Imagine the jail time for parading. Nothing happened yesterday. Ronald Reagan's voice echoes almost every day in my head now, not from his presidency, but when he was standing up in 1961 or 64, and he was talking about a time of choosing. He had been a Democrat his whole life. And I think he was the first one who said, I didn't leave the Democratic Party. They left me. And he said, it's a time for choosing. And it is. The president said it last night in his own speech. You and I both know, and I don't know why our friends who are Democrats, and I'm not talking about the ones in Washington or the real deep political people. I'm talking about the average person. I don't know why they won't admit it or they can't see it, but this is not America. The last 3 weeks could be coming from the old Soviet Union. Brezhnev speaks, loses his place, and looks confused. Then his challenger is shot after everybody is saying he's not in charge. He can't be the guy. His main competitor is shot and almost killed. Would we accept that at face value in the Soviet Union? No. Then a coup happens. And Brezhnev is saying, I'm not leaving yet. And then a note is issued with a weird signature that you've never seen before, a weird signature on it that just says, yes, okay, I'm leaving. Would we accept that at face value? And what would we expect to happen? Brezhnev, a couple of days later, coming out and having a press conference after some sort of deal seems to have been brokered, and he would endorse the new guy stepping in. And the press would say, what a hero Brezhnev is. What a proud son of the Soviet Republic. Right? That's Soviet stuff. That's not American. The protesters on the streets, nothing happens to them. You are seeing our history destroyed, the real-time destroying of news and history, rewriting of history. You're seeing our traditions destroyed. But I want you to keep one thing in mind. This is where you are right now, most likely. And you're like, geez, I just feel horrible. Great. Let me say some things to you that the mainstream and the political party does not want you to hear. We have watched our country take an absolute beating from the debate right into the assassination, right into the, people on social media screaming, how could you possibly miss, which was just another assault on your senses. And then the Secret Service director, Cheadle, coming out and saying, yeah, well, it was a slopey roof, and so we don't like to put people on hot, slopey roofs. And and then a coup happens. Kamala is made the nominee, and they start changing history again. And they start saying, oh, no, she was never the border czar, when they were the ones who told us she was the border czar. And then last night, the president, and while he's doing that, the Palestinians are marching for Hamas in Washington, D.C., and burning an effigy of Bibi Netanyahu and taking down the flags in front of the Union Station, a federal building, and burning the flags. That's what happened in the last 3 weeks. And you're like, there's nobody doing anything. There's nothing. Well, let me show you another side. And let me show you what happened when the Palestinians took the flag down. They started burning it. And there was a group of Americans that went in for that flag. And they were police officers. Let me show you the bravery it took to go in and get that flag. Here you see maybe, 10 police officers. They are surrounded by an angry Hamas crowd, and they are getting the flag off of the ground. And people aren't happy, and they lock arms with the flag and back out of the area. I watch this, and I am moved by the bravery of those officers, and I am grateful to those officers that they remember who we are. You have a right to burn the flag. You're a moron if you do it, but you have a right to burn the flag. But you do not have a right to deface our monuments, to write Hamas is coming on our monuments, take down our flags, and then fly the Palestinian flag. No, I'm sorry. You don't have a right to do that. And in a sane America, you would have been arrested. But we're not a sane America. We're a very sick America. But I want to show you the parts that are standing The left immediately went after Donald Trump when he stood up after being shot in the head. Secret Service wanted just to rush him out of there. But he said, and you can hear it on the tape, no, I need to say something to people. No, wait. And then he did something that I fear too many of us have already forgotten.
Wait.
He stands up with a clenched fist and says, fight! The press immediately tore him apart, saying, look, he wants violence. No, he does not want violence. He is saying, fight for your country. Stand up for your country. Do what those police officers did yesterday. Fight for your flag. Fight for our history. It's not violent. It is passionate. And it is rooted in eternal truth. There are far too many examples of people being cowards. Far too many examples of people being stupid. I come to you today to ask you to recognize the light. The shadows are growing so very dark, but that is only possible when the light begins to get brighter. Be that light, be that beacon of hope in somebody's life. It's always darkest before the dawn. They have trashed our country for 20 plus years. They have brought us to the point to where we're at a breaking point, a place where I said we would be. I hoped that we would not. But the country cannot go on much longer like this. But I want you to take courage from the two things that I just showed you that also happened this week, and they were big things. They're just not getting play in the media because that's not their narrative or their agenda. Your narrative, your agenda, my narrative, my agenda is to save the republic. Now remember, it was just 4 weeks ago that we were having the discussion whether we're a republic or a democracy. And the same people that are lying to you today about Kamala Harris and the border czar and are in this sudden whipped up frenzy to change history, all of them are doing it. It's because they're exactly the same people and they are answering to exactly the same people. It's just Kamala that they're helping and covering for now and not covering for President Biden, because President Biden, he has been used up. He's finished. Move on. They are also the same people that were telling you 4 weeks ago that we are a democracy. And when we spoke out and said, no, it's a very important distinguishing characteristic. We are a republic. We have a democratic vote, but after that vote is taken, then we're a republic. They told us we are conspiracy theorists that are whipped up by the right and Donald Trump because it's our plot to make people believe we're a republic. Well, let me quote President Biden last night, cut 15.
When Ben Franklin was asked, as he emerged from the convention going on, whether the founders have given America a monarchy or republic, Franklin's response was a republic, if you can keep it. A republic, if you can keep it. Whether we keep our republic is now in your hands.
Yes, it is. But what he means is go out and vote. What Franklin meant was educate yourself. Be a responsible citizen. Care about these things. Talk amongst yourself about these things. Discover the truth, because the truth will be, there will always be people who try to hide the truth from you. And it is your responsibility, not the media's responsibility, not my responsibility, but your responsibility to educate yourself. And when you see an injustice, fight, fight, fight. You fight for what is true. And then you go to the ballot box. You fight for the truth because it's worth fighting for. It's worth living for. It's the only thing that will change our children's life for the better is the truth. So damn right, fight. And use that one day that we have a democratic democracy tool at our disposal and vote. You know, I was going to say, may God save the Republic, but I was reminded that it was a millimeter that the president walked off stage 2 weeks ago, bleeding from the side of his head. His ear was clipped off. You and I both know that was a miracle. How dare us feel beaten and discouraged when the arm of God was made bare. He's doing his part. May you do your part and me do my part. May we save the Republic.